In the news this week, the Scottish Government backs sweeping and controversial transsexual guidance, the Australian public vote to redefine marriage, and the British public overwhelmingly support abortion restrictions. Hello. Schools should help children explore their gender identity without the consent of parents, according to new guidance endorsed by the Scottish Government. The 54-page document by LGBT Youth Scotland tells schools to accommodate trans young people in every circumstance, even at the expense of the comfort and safety of other pupils. It states that trans kids should always be allowed to use a toilet or changing room of their choice. In addition, they should be able to stay in rooms with members of the opposite sex on school trips, without parents knowing. The Christian Institute's Simon Calvert expressed alarm at the scope of the guidance.
Well, this is a very alarming document to read, especially because of the way it proposes to sideline parents from the lives of their own children if the teachers think that child really is transgender. And that's especially surprising given that, of course, now we're seeing coming through the system, as it were, children and young people expressing real regret that they were put on hormones and that those who are older have even gone through with radical surgery. And they're now asking, why did no adults protect me from this? The document also sidelines the safety and privacy rights of other pupils. So it's very concerning. Schools need to remember that they have an obligation to all of their pupils, not just their transgender pupils. This document ignores that entirely.
Australia has voted to abandon the definition of marriage as between one man and one woman, in a move which follows sustained abuse and threats against traditional marriage voters. Australian Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull welcomed the outcome of the non-binding postal vote and said he intends to make same-sex marriage the law of the land by Christmas. 61.6% of Australians who voted were in favour of legalising same-sex marriage, and a bill has now been introduced to the Australian Senate. Lyle Shelton, Managing Director of the Australian Christian Lobby, called on traditional marriage supporters to speak more, not less, on the issue. The shape of the nation we leave to our children and grandchildren depends on what we do together next. Thomas Pascoe, Campaign Director for the UK's Coalition for Marriage, responded, saying Australia had voted for a slippery slope.
I think the important thing from a British perspective is that at least the Australian public got a vote. This is something that we missed in the UK, where same-sex marriage was introduced for much of the population without being in a political party's manifesto and against the wishes of the majority who replied to the consultation exercise. What have the Australians voted for? I'm afraid I think they voted for the slippery slope. We've seen in the United Kingdom that this has been followed by moves to introduce LGBT lifestyles to children as young as 5 in the classroom. It's also been followed by an exercise to get rid of the very idea of gender being related to biology itself. So at least this is something that the Australians have gone into with their eyes open, but I'm afraid the consequences could be very grave indeed.
7 in 10 Brits oppose the decriminalisation of abortion, according to a new opinion poll. The poll, commissioned by Christian Charity Care, demonstrates overwhelming support for legal restraints. Its findings are in marked contrast to some medical groups calling for abortion on demand. More than 2,000 British adults were surveyed, and nearly 3 in 4 of the general public believe abortion should be subject to the law, while just 1 in 8 disagreed. Nola Leach, Care's chief executive, said, "Rather than making abortion more widely available, we should be doing more to support women and children in pregnancy and beyond for the good of our society." While activists are pushing for abortion to be available up to birth, a Newcastle hospital is demonstrating just how far neonatal care has come in the past few decades. 21 years ago, neonatal doctors at the Royal Victoria Infirmary successfully cared for Sophie Proud, Britain's first baby born at 24 weeks. Since that groundbreaking achievement, doctors at the infirmary have seen survival rates for babies born at 24 weeks rise to 80%. For babies born at 23 weeks, survival rates have almost tripled, from 25% in 2006 to almost 70% now. Well, that's all for this week. For regular updates and information on all of our stories, plus much more, visit our website at christian.org.uk. Until next time, goodbye.